What was the reasoning to create a more inclusive work environment at Ripple?
Yeah, so about a year ago, just as the pandemic was kicking off, Ripple made the decision to create some new programming and a space to drive diversity and inclusion efforts throughout the organization to improve how we see differences and also to embrace those differences so people can do their best work.
What kind of initiatives have been implemented to create more diversity and inclusion at the company?
So our diversity and inclusion efforts, I like to say that they're broken into kind of 4 different pillars. The first one being external. So this is how we showcase our brand and our efforts and how we tell our story. It's also how we recruit and showcase our diverse workforce. When we take a look at internal work, that's around kind of things like data collection. It might be around promotion cycles. It could also be within our hiring practices and ensuring that there isn't bias within that process. The 4th pillar is going to be around ERG activation, and employee resource groups are really our superpower here at Ripple. We have 7 of them. I'll go into them a little bit later, but really empowering them and ensuring that they're supported by our executive team. And last but not least would be capability building. And capability building is really partnering with our leadership and development team. That includes ensuring that we have diversity and inclusion as part of all of their existing programming, including our Global Leadership Summit, our manager circles, and everything in between.
What's an employee research group, or ERG, and how many are there at the company?
So we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary for our 7 employee resource groups. And for those of you that aren't familiar, employee resource groups are employee-led groups. They volunteer on top of their day jobs to support our diverse communities. And we have 7 of them that each have an executive sponsor, and they run off what we call the 4C model. The 4 C's stand for culture, community, commerce, and careers. And that's to ensure that their work is really tied to our business initiatives.
Of the ERGs here at Ripple, which has the biggest opportunity to create sort of, an impact on the culture of inclusion here at the company?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's hard to answer because they all have great opportunity, right? But I feel like the real sleeper actually is our ABLE at Ripple ERG. And that focuses on all different types of disabilities or differently abled people. And that includes things like depression, things like invisible disabilities, like if someone has dyslexia, and really understanding how we can be better to support those individuals so people can bring their whole selves to work.
Ripple's a global company. How do you approach diversity and inclusion initiatives given the cultural differences and nuances that we see around the world?
That's a great question. When we take a look at diversity and inclusion programming, sometimes we do hear that feedback that this feels very US-centric, given the disparities that we see with underrepresented groups within the US. But we know that there's less than equal access for women globally when it comes to economic advancement, access to education, and everything in between as well too. So what we do for our programming is we try to uncover the biggest opportunities within regions outside of the US. So it could be something along the lines of, again, ensuring there's equal access for women in our international offices. It could be something along the lines of socioeconomic, recognizing socioeconomic differences within our Latin American presence, but ensuring, again, that we're really catering each of those programs.
Let's talk results. How have these initiatives created a more inclusive workplace and environment here?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So we implemented what a lot of companies have done. It's nothing new, but it's what's called the Rooney Rule. And that ensures that we are taking a look at least 2 diverse candidates after a certain stage of the interview process to ensure that we're giving everyone a fair shot at our open roles. And that actually, we implemented that almost exactly a year ago, and we've seen significant increase in what we call hires that identify as underrepresented people. We've also seen significant increases in our promotion cycles, our last 3 promotion cycles, when it comes to promoting women, which is really exciting. So recognizing those efforts and ensuring that there's gender parity within our processes.
What are you most excited about regarding the future of these initiatives?
The biggest project that we rolled out in the first half this year was what we called the Global Self-ID campaign. And the Global Self-ID campaign allowed us to send out a survey to every single Rippler globally and ask all different questions around their identity to capture what our workforce demographics really look like. So it didn't so much focus on race and ethnicity like we traditionally do, but then also things like gender identity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic differences, so what's your highest level of education, and then also who raised you, what kind of household did you come from, disability status, veteran status, and then my favorite, caregiver status, because that's really important because we know that caregiving has been a huge topic in this last year. I'm sure you understand as well too. We're wearing a lot of different hats as caregivers these days, so ensuring that we have our benefits in the right place when it comes to supporting that population.